Now, for perhaps the most important part of our ELMO classroom system, it's tablet learning. Basically, tablet learning is the interface between the teaching unit and your students' devices. Essentially, this is what it's all about. Now, if we go over to our menu, tablet learning, and you will see we have a list of classes and subjects. Let's go to Class Info Manage. So, there's a list of my students' names, and as you can see, you can easily add a new student's name. Now, let's go to Start a Class. So now it's time for my students to join the class. As you can see, I already have 3 logged in. Here are their devices. And let's go over to this last one here. Andreas, log in. And we have 4 devices, and they're all shown up on the screen. Also, you can have up to 50 devices connected at any one time. As you can see here, layout. For example, you could have 42 students. That's a big class. Or any amount. 9, for example. So, now we're logged in. Class has begun. Now, I'd like to send an image to all of my students' devices. Let's take a look. First, send image. Send file. Now, by the way, you can send any kind of file, whether it's a JPEG, you can send videos, documents, all kinds. Right now, we're going to choose this image. And file transfer. As you can see, the images have now been sent to my students' devices. Let's open them up. And the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of the students have received that image. Now, I'd like my students to submit an assignment to me. Let's take a look. So, firstly, we can, whatever they've received on their device, they can annotate, so they can write or draw on their screen, much the same way we can do with the whiteboard. So, let's take a look. Go. We are. For example. Okay. Now, let's submit from their devices onto our big screen. Here, submit, and that's the image with the annotation. So, up on our big screen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of our students' work, and of course, this one that's been annotated by the student. Now, mid-lesson, I want to follow my students' progress more closely. That's what the monitoring function's for. Let's take a look. Firstly, just to demonstrate, let me write a couple of things or draw a couple of lines on one of my students' devices. Now, we hit the monitoring icon over here. Bang. all 4 of my students' devices can be seen up on the screen. So I can see my students' work, and whatever they're doing on their screen can be seen in real time on the big screen. Now, of course, most classrooms still have hard copy and textbooks. Mine certainly do. But you don't have to throw those out. We can combine traditional lesson materials with this great new technology. So, let me show you. This is for my Japanese class. Currently, we're using this Japanese kanji textbook. Let's use our ELMO camera to document a couple of pages from that book. So, go to the camera icon. And this is our shutter button. Go. Maybe I might want to make an assignment for them. Maybe I might want them to practice a couple of these Japanese kanji characters. So, let's annotate. This one? Shima? I'm having trouble with this one. Let's send that. I can send this image to all of my students' devices. Send image. Just like that. The textbook now shows on their screen. What a great feature. Let's have a look at another couple of features of our interface between teacher and student. Okay, so go down to the control icon. Firstly, let's go live. So, as you can see, what is on the teacher's screen is now mirrored onto the student's device. Also, another great feature is screen lock. So, for example, mid-lesson, and you want your students to focus on the board or whatever you're saying, you can lock their screens, as you can see, so they won't be distracted by their devices. Let's take a look at how students can present from their device straight to the big screen here. Okay, so firstly, I'm going to go to Control. You can see here, Allow Presentation. Great. Now, over to my student's device. Share. And immediately, you can see that's my student's desktop is displayed on the big screen. Let's open up our application down here. And you can see some kanji my student's been working on. Okay. Now we can annotate on the device, and you'll be able to see it live on the big screen. Now, let's look at how a student can make a presentation. They have already prepared a presentation on their storyboard. Go to Play, Start, and they can easily scroll through and make a presentation from their desk to the whole class. Okay, time for some in-class testing. So, my students are going to have a quiz today. Let's go to Control, Questionnaire, and just a mini quiz today. Choose this option. Firstly, as you can see, we have our different answer formats. So students can answer in alphabet, numbers. It can be a yes or no type of question. Today, let's choose alphabet, and it'll be a multiple choice quiz. We're going to choose students get 4 choices. Also, of course, very importantly, you can set a time limit. So, today, let's do a very short quiz. My students will have 20 seconds to answer my questions. So let's begin the test. Which is the capital of France? A, Prague, B, Paris, C, London, or D, Berlin? Begin. Okay, so go to my students' devices. They are answering the question. Now, as my students are answering live in real time, you can see a ratio of their answers. Pencils down, students. So, the answer was, of course, B, Paris. 1/3 of my students answered that question correctly. There are only 3 students today. Okay, so let's take a look at this toolbox icon. As you can see here, convenient functions. So, messages. It's always very important to keep in touch with your students. And as you can see here, there's a very simple to use message function. Also, back to our toolbox, group work. I'm very often getting my students to do group projects, so this is a great way of facilitating that process